At 4 in the morning, the sound of a metal key clinking against my ranch gate shattered the silence like a gunshot. And under that harsh glare from my motion sensor lights, I caught the unmistakable face of HOA Karen, standing there in her bathrobe, curlers poking out of her hair, waving some shiny brass master key like she was about to knight the gravel itself. You know, there's being bold, and then there's just plain delusional, and right then I honestly couldn't tell which one she was. She marched right up, muttering to herself about how the HOA owns everything past the curb, but what she didn't know or refused to believe was that my gate sat a good 30 feet inside my registered private easement. It wasn't HOA property, and it sure as hell wasn't something her magic key was ever going to open. That lock was electronic deadbolted and wired to a live feed that my son, he's a county deputy, could watch from his patrol car. When her precious key jammed halfway in, she froze. The useless clicking echoed in the night, followed by a string of curses about residents who think they're above the rules. That's when the floodlights kicked on, and she just about jumped out of her slippers like a raccoon caught elbow deep in the trash. I stood on my porch with my coffee just watching. It was almost comical if it wasn't so sad, trying to figure out if she'd finally lost her mind, or if this was just another of her power plays, seeing how close she could dance to breaking the law before anyone noticed. She started pacing, phone in hand, whispering something about emergency access rights, and then to top it all off, she dialed 911 and claimed there was a hostage situation on my property. Yeah, that happened. What she didn't realize was the dispatcher on duty was my son, and thanks to a cross-line relay in the house, I could hear the call inside. "Calm down, ma'am." "Where exactly are you located?" he asked, voice dead tired. She rattled off my address. There was a pause long enough to kill the night. "Then, this is Deputy Cole. You're trespassing on my father's property." That did it. She stared straight at the camera over my gate like she'd just glimpsed the end of the world. Her so-called authority evaporated right there under the porch lights. She tried to cover her tracks, fumbled to muffle the phone, but it was too late. Cole was already close by, sirens cutting the night with that whoop-whoop that sounds a lot like judgment when you're standing in slippers on gravel, clutching a useless key. I just leaned against my porch post, watching as she tried to regain her dignity, muttering to herself about policy enforcement. The camera zoomed in, capturing her every twitch as she tried to retreat, then spotted me in the porch light. "You're violating HOA safety standards," she called chin up like she could wish away the reality. "We need emergency access to all perimeter gates. This one is non-compliant." I set my mug down and walked to the porch edge, boots crunching the gravel. "Karen, you're 30 feet off HOA property. That's not a safety inspection. That's trespassing." She blinked, gripped her phone, and you could see the panic rising as Cole's cruiser rolled in headlights, sweeping the fence, his radio still crackling. He stepped out, flashlight in hand, and deadpanned. "Dispatch said there's a hostage situation." She pointed at me, the words tumbling out. "He's holding people. He locked the gate. I was just checking for compliance." Cole looked at me, then at her, and that silence between them might have been the most awkward moment of her life. He stepped closer. "Ma'am, you're trespassing on private land at 4 a.m., using a key you don't own, filing a false report. That's a Class C. Mr. Minimum." She stammered out something about protocol and neighborhood audits. He told her to put down the phone. She hesitated, glancing my way as if I might save her. "Funny how those rules only matter when you write them," I said. By now, porch lights were flicking on all over neighbors, peeking through blinds, phones recording. My camera streamed it all straight to the cloud, her ranting about master key privileges. Cole leaned in. "Dad, you want to press trespassing charges?" I looked at Karen. Robe drooping, slippers covered in dust, eyes darting like a cornered cat. "Not yet. Let her call the HOA board first. Let's see how they clean up this mess." He nodded, gave her a warning, and sent her packing. When the dust settled, I replayed the footage, chuckling to myself. That wasn't just a bad night for Karen, it was the moment her whole fantasy of control snapped in half. I'd been waiting for that. For weeks, her letters stacked up warnings about my fence paint color, even the unauthorized gravel tone. Now, I had what I needed: proof of trespass, abuse of authority, and a bogus police call. I watched her taillights vanish and whispered, "Game on, Karen." The war had flipped sides. By sunrise, the story was everywhere. Maple Creek Estates Queen Bee caught red-handed on private land, calling 911 on herself. I sipped my coffee as SUVs rolled past neighbors, gawking kids on bikes, shouting, "Karen got busted." Her white colonial house was dead quiet, blinds drawn, no HOA flag in the yard for the first time ever. Cole called me up around 9, half laughing, half serious. "Dad, she's filed a formal complaint with the board, says you obstructed an emergency inspection." Brought her lawyer, too. "Emergency meeting tonight." "Let them dig their hole deeper," I said, watching the sunlight hit the gate that started it all. That morning I rode my ATV around the property, checking every camera and making triple backups. Neighbor Frank pulled up, grinning, heard about Keygate. "The boys at the diner are loving it." He told me Karen claimed her key was issued for emergency perimeter checks. Only no one else got one. The board denied it. That's when I realized this wasn't just her mistake. This was her undoing. That night I showed up at the emergency meeting in the clubhouse. Karen stood up, makeup thick, voice trembling. "As HOA president, it's my duty to enforce safety for all residents." She rambled about keys, community harmony. When she finally stopped, I stood. "Karen, my property's registered with the county. Your key wasn't authorized. You trespassed, filed a false report. I've got it all: video from 4 cameras, audio from dispatch." Her face went pale. "You can't record me without consent," she snapped. "On private property when you break in." "You bet I can." Silence. Someone in back muttered, "4 a.m. "Really?" The crowd laughed. Her composure slipped. She slammed her folder. "This is slander," she yelled. "He's twisting facts." I dropped a flash drive on the table. "Facts don't twist, they record." The board blinked uneasy. "We'll review this. Karen, you're suspended from enforcement until then." For the first time, someone told her no. Afterward, neighbors gathered in the lot whispering. Even the mailman joked about seeing the police lights. "She's finished," Frank said. But I wasn't so sure. Karen never went quietly. That very night, a silver sedan crept by the gate, her and a man with a clipboard. My cameras caught them trying the lock, snapping photos, muttering about nuisance claims. I called Cole's son. "She's back." "Brought company." He rolled up 10 minutes later, blocked their car, badge gleaming. "You're under temporary suspension, Karen. Leave before I call county enforcement." She sputtered, then left tires kicking dust. The fallout spread like wildfire. Photos of her late-night antics leaked, board messages, half the neighborhood laughing, half mortified. Karen tried to turn the tide, fed the local news blog a story: "Homeowner blocks community creek access." Only the reporter was my old fishing buddy. I sent him the deed footage of her tampering at the gate. Within an hour, the headline flipped: "HOA President's Creek Claim Backfires." She tried to drown truth in noise, but this time the facts did all the shouting. Days later, she escalated survey stakes in my creek bed assistance with clipboards, phony boundary reassessments. I drove down, told them, "Call the county surveyor right now." Karen rolled up, fake smile. "We're ensuring proper compliance. Not by hammering stakes into my land, you're not." She threatened official action. I grinned. Spell trespassing right on the paperwork. Soon enough, a new complaint arrived: scenic access violation. And then she tried to drag the county into it, filed for an easement adjustment. But the county clerk knew better. No consent, no clause. But then the storm hit. And in the middle of it, Karen showed up with contractors pounding caution tape into the mud, shouting about safety perimeters. Lightning lit us up like a camera flash, her soaked and screaming me recording from my side of the fence. She called 911 again, claimed I'd destroyed HOA property. This time the officers just shook their heads. You're digging a hole you won't climb out of. They filed a report and left her stuck in the mud, her truck spinning uselessly, reputation sinking with it. The county opened an inquiry embezzlement, unauthorized projects, forged proposals. The board panicked. Karen tried to blame community safety, but receipts showed thousands of HOA dollars funneled to consulting that never existed. Her suspension became removal, and at the meeting where the truth came out, footage playing on the projector, her lies unraveling, she finally cracked. "You think this is over?" she whispered. "It's over for you, Karen," I said, and stepped into the cool night air, feeling something like peace for the first time in months. But folks like her never quit. She vandalized my gate, faked environmental violations, tried to stir county inspections, even sent a cousin with a phony cease and desist letter. Each time the facts held, the law held, the neighbors held. She tried to play the victim, but her own board turned whistleblower, and the county froze her assets. One evening, officers took her away, suitcase in hand, voice cracking on the sidewalk. And I just stood there watching her leave, not with glee, but with relief. The neighborhood healed, slow apologies at the mailbox, honest meetings in the park, laughter where there'd been gossip. The new board named the community fund after me, Thompson Fair Use Fund, which was as strange as it was satisfying. Sometimes late at night I'd find an echo of her, an old form left on my step, or a box of her paperwork I only wanted ordered scribbled on the back of a photograph. But I buried it beneath a new fence post by the creek. Some reminders belong to the earth, not our memories. Months passed. Kids played in the street. Dogs barked without complaint. The old HOA office stood dark, a monument to what happens when power gets out of hand. And one frosty morning driving into town, I saw her at the diner, wiping tables, face tired, no sign of the queen bee, just a woman humbled by her own undoing. I didn't wave, didn't gloat. Some victories are best left unspoken. By Christmas, the board dissolved itself, replaced by a neighborhood council with no power but to organize events. We gathered by the creek, firelight flickering. Frank clapped me on the shoulder. "You changed this place," he said. "Sometimes all it takes is one person saying no." I nodded, thinking how true that was. As the night ended, I lingered by the gate that started at all the same gate that stood fast against a flood of nonsense. In the end, it was never about a lock, a fence, or a title. It was about standing up when everyone else said to sit down, about holding the line, even when it would have been easier to bend. Maple Creek isn't perfect, never will be, but it's honest now. And if you ask me, that's what justice really looks like. Neighbors looking out for each other, not living in fear. So let me ask you, where do you draw your line? What would you have done if it were your home, your peace, your truth on the line? Drop your thoughts below, share your stories. And if you've ever faced down a bully HOA or otherwise, let folks know. Because sometimes all it takes is one stubborn gate to remind a whole neighborhood who really owns the land. If you stuck with me this far, hit like, drop a comment, tell me where you're watching from, or your own battle for what's right. Here's to good fences, good neighbors, and never letting anyone steal your peace.